Howdy train fans, welcome back to the Chattanooga Southern Railroad. So I'm back in Southern Regalia. Just finished up a lot of family vacation stuff and some other things, traveling and whatnot. So I get a chance to get back to working on the railroad, so to speak. But what I want to do right now is I got a nice surprise when I came back from all the trips. The channel cleared 300 subscribers, so just want to say thank you so much to all of you that find my content interesting enough to want to not miss the next video. So, and if you haven't thought about subscribing, please do. We're going to be kicking in as we go into the fall and into the winter months. I'll be spending more and more time on the layout, getting some things going. Right off the bat, I haven't done anything since we last talked, so what I'm going to do today is the first episode of the letter rip track. So this is where I pull the train onto the rip track and answer some questions that you guys have asked out there. I think I've got 5 or 6 or something like that of the biggest asked questions out there. So in the background you'll see my latest acquisition of the Southern Railway RS3, the 2037, running along with my TrackMan car cleaning tool. I love that tool. I don't even know if they're available anymore. And then my black roof Southern Bay window. So one thing to mention, I bought another one. So this one's a roundhouse model. Let's see if I got the box here. Yeah, so this is one of the newer versions of the roundhouse. Didn't have that one, so naturally I had to buy it. So that's another caboose. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started with the rip track. So if you remember this one, the Chattanooga Central hopper car will have the general questions, and then the Chattanooga Southern Railroad hopper car will have the extra special question. So let's just dive on in here, shall we? So first question you guys have asked is, what track do you use? So in the past I have used the Shinohara and the Walthers and all that stuff. I pretty much, when I first started, in model trains decades ago, I did, code 100 Atlas. That's what everybody used. Sometimes it was Snap Track. But for this particular layout, I'm using Atlas code 83, both flex track and turnouts. I have not mixed in anything else. Haven't had a need to, with the exception of reusing. If you watch my video about the staging yard, I am reusing some stuff I got from a gentleman who was passing away from cancer. That's code 100 and snap switches and stuff like that. So that's what I'm using pretty much across the board. I will continue to use that on this particular layout. And for the most part, I like it. It does have its idiosyncrasies. It's the one thing I don't like about the Atlas stuff is it looks too perfect. And the other second thing I don't like about it is the frogs are a little too massive for a prototype type style frog. So anyway, there's question number 1. Question number 2 is, and this was a good one, a couple of you have sent this one in, is, I did a video about how I use basswood as my road bed under here instead of doing something like cork or something like that. And the question I've gotten a couple times is, do you worry about the water-based glues or glue in general expanding that basswood when you go to ballast it? No, I don't, and here's why. Because in addition to spiking it down, which you've seen me do, I actually put a bead of wood glue underneath of it, which bonds it from one end to the other and keeps it from curling up. So any water that comes on it, and because it's somewhat uniform, even with the slits in it, I have not experienced any massive changes in rail height, right or left or side to side or anything like that. So, so far, knock on wood, depending on how you look at it. I don't really worry about the water on those. Okay. Next question that I got, which seems to be pretty popular, and has come in different forms, so I'm kind of, mashing this all into one, is you've seen me do a couple expansions. The great expansion over towards the new part of town and the engine servicing facility and yard on the, what I'll call the north end of the layout. And then, which is actually the southern end of the layout based on how my house is oriented. But also this new section over here. You guys have seen like the crawl space that you can see behind me. No, I don't have any plans to expand beyond this right now. I do have plans, and I think I've mentioned this before in previous videos, of building what I call the permanent dream layout somewhere else in my house, which hopefully will be an episode kind of when I get to that point. But I wanted to get something up that I could start enjoying now, right? And I think I mentioned this also, is that this is kind of an R&D facility. I'm trying new techniques with the roadbed, with making track look old. I'm trying to work out a lot of those kinks and ideas, but the idea would be that some of these sections I could pick up and move to that new location when the time comes. So no, I don't have any plans to expand any further than this. I think this is plenty for me to work on with between my normal work career and also family stuff, events with my daughter and whatnot, and my other hobbies, which for those of you that are interested, I am an avid woodworker, so I have a whole woodworking shop that I tinker with, do everything from wood turning to doing trim work in my house and things like that. But I also have a hobby where I do overlanding. If you don't know anything about overlanding, YouTube's a great place to learn about that. But the short answer to that is vehicle dependent travel. So go check that out if you're interested in that kind of thing. All right, next question. Let's see. What surprises you most about the hobby now that you're back in it? So if you haven't watched my other videos, I had like almost a 20-year hiatus, serious hiatus in there. I did dabble in it about 10 or so years ago when my nephew Austin was showing some interest in trains, and I built this original layout that you see here, not in this form, but pretty close, to try to bond with him about that and whatnot. But then it sat idle until a few months ago, when back in the early spring, when I kicked this whole channel back off again. And I'm using the channel as a means of encouraging me to keep with this, right? I've actually been itching to get back to this with the hiatus I've had, which has been like a month. You guys haven't heard from me. But there's two things that have surprised me most about this hobby coming back into it. One is the cost of things. I mean, the cars, cars like this that you could buy from Roundhouse or Athearn that were $3.50, $4, and if you went to a train show, you might get another $1 off of them. These things, that caboose right there, $50 without even blinking if you buy one on eBay, if they're not manufacturing them anymore. I think some of the cheapest cars I've seen online is $15. The price of locomotives are just up there what I remember G-scale locomotives being. It's just amazing. And even little detail parts, like you buy a package of HO scale barrels, right, to put on a loading dock you might have. You're paying $10 for that, right, when it should have been a couple bucks a pop. So that's been one of the biggest surprises on a negative side, I guess. On a positive side, I think YouTube has been a huge benefit across all of us as modelers, no matter what level you are, what skill level, how deep you get into this hobby. YouTube seems to me, in my opinion, has raised all the boats in the harbor, right? We get a chance to share our ideas, our techniques, our fails, right? So if we try something that doesn't work, sharing those with other people so that you guys don't make that same mistake. I think that's one of the biggest and best improvements that we've had in this hobby, and I just love that. I love being able to share with you, for me, what I did, why I did it, how I did it, whether it worked or not, and if I mess up, hopefully it saves you from making the same mistake, or you can find an improvement, a different way of doing the same thing that gets the result that you want. So those are the two biggest things I've seen in this hobby. So on to the big question, right? So what is something we don't know about you? Yeah, so this you're going to find interesting because you don't know. So I've mentioned in past videos that I am an engineer by training. I actually have a degree in architectural engineering from the University of Texas at Austin, hook 'em horns. And I also have a master's degree in civil engineering from the University of Delaware, where I live. But I never mentioned what that UD civil engineering degree was focused on. So I had the wonderful opportunity of being a student of Dr. Arnold Kerr. And if you don't know who Dr. Arnold Kerr is, he was, because he passed away a decade ago, one of the foremost authorities on railway engineering. So my master's degree is in railway engineering, in particular track design. And I did work as a track design engineer up in Philadelphia for a number of years. I think 5, almost 6 total between my two stints up there. And the most interesting thing, people who are watching this right now are probably saying, oh wow, you had your dream job. Yeah, I thought so too. But the one interesting thing is, when you're doing it, for me, doing that day in and day out, it killed my love of trains. Or I should say tamped it down heavily enough that it went underground for me for a while. And it wasn't till just recently that I decided to kick it back off again. So, but one of the things that Dr. Arnold Kerr did is he wrote a book called The Fundamentals of Railway Track Engineering. If you really want to learn a lot about track structure, I don't know if this book is still available. You can see this one, it's pretty old school, but he wrote it himself from stem to stern. I actually got an opportunity to help proofread some of it as part of my curriculum, which was great. That's my little claim to fame there. Yeah, so my background is that I do have a master's degree in railway engineering. So I haven't applied a lot of that to my layout yet. That's coming in the quote-unquote dream layout, but that's something you guys don't know about me. So, well, with that, that's what I've got for the first episode of the Let Her Rip track. I just want to say one more thing. I love getting comments from you guys. I love getting the questions. And the way I've been did this one is I found the questions that were asked the most from all of you guys and put them in the thing. We'll do another Let Her Rip track in the future if I get enough questions from you guys, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, just want to say thank you to all the subscribers. If you haven't thought about subscribing, please consider it. And if you like the episode, the topic, whether it's the Let Her Rip track or whether it's the how-tos that I'm going to start doing or whatever it is, hit that like bell for me. That gives me some feedback as to what you guys want to see and what you don't want to see. Okay, so with that, I'll say thank you again, and hope you have a great afternoon, and we'll see you on down the tracks.